guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous.
And we are back with another episode of From the Rafters. Sam and I are here recording on Tuesday, June 21st. My voice cracked in the intro, but I'm just going to run with it.
I
I
didn't
was just talking to
notice.
Sam.
In fairness, I did not
It was
notice.
like weird. It was like, and we are back, and it kind of went up a little bit. But no, this is the first time we talked since the Celtics lost in the finals. I was just telling Sam, I don't know if you feel the same, but I've been so burnt out after the Celtics, lost, and I wasn't as upset as I thought I'd be. Obviously, I was sad that they lost. I was sad that the season was over. Obviously there's going to be the frustrations with the turnovers and everything and the way they lost, but I know you can relate because you've liked them for a long time. I know you were mad after they lost. I remember the text you said, fuck this guy Curry or whatever
No,
you
I didn't
said.
say after this guy. I said I think he's milking a bit, which I stand by. Like, it's your fourth title.
Yeah, but
Act like you've won a couple.
no,
Dude's
no, no.
crying. Like, give me a
I
break.
think I understand the crying in that situation because of where they went. Like his injury, Clay's injury, being the worst team in the league and climbing all the way back. I understand it. And I think winning a title in a year is like the crowning achievement. So I'm not going to blame him. So I don't really care regardless. Um, I'm not upset that they lost to the Warriors, if that makes sense. Like if there was going to be a team for them to lose to, I'd rather them lose to the Warriors because I like Steph, I like Clay, I like Draymond, and I know you've liked the Warriors too. So I mean,
Yep.
congratulations to Golden State. They obviously earned it because, and I don't want to spend today talking about the turnovers and the everything because I feel like that's what our last 19 million shows have been about. We can touch on it though. I mean, what did they have? 23 turnovers in Game 6, right? It was more of the same. It was exactly what you knew they couldn't do if they wanted to win a title, and it happened in Game 6, and Warriors blew them out of the water. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah, it sucks because they came out real fast, and we were all watching it, kind of talking in the chat. We are like, "Oh boy, like they might win again. They might win this." And then Golden State started a 21-0 run off an offensive rebound, by the way, which dating
Of course,
all the
right?
way back to 2021, late in last year. What would be the spark in them losing games and blowing leads? It was always that. It was always that. It was consistent throughout when they were bad in the playoffs. That was one of the main things they were doing, along with the turnovers. But if you really want to see something that plagued them throughout the season when they were bad, it was the offensive rebounds. Gary Payton misses a three, comes in, gets his own miss, lays it in, and then they score 19 more on top of that, unanswered. And then that was the game. Unfortunately, there were a couple runs the Celtics put together that really gave you hope. They got it to 8 a couple times down the stretch. By the way, with the Warriors leaving the door wide open and them doing nothing about it. Again, in Celtic fashion, kind of doing it to themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
the Warriors absolutely like punched them in the mouth in Game 6, and they dominated the most part of that game. But you're lying to yourself if you don't think the Celtics had a chance to get back in that game. I mean, early in the fourth quarter, they were begging them. They were like, "Please come make this a game again. Please,
Yeah.
please come take the lead." And they didn't do it, and it sucked. And watching a guy like Al Horford, put up a 19-14 effort, whether you want to say those points came after the game was decided or not, he was playing hard the entire time and really was the driving force and what made it interesting again, enough for us to stay awake in the second half there. As the Celtics do, they like to say, "Hey, here's a little hope," and then we're going to lose anyway. And that's how the season ended. And really, if you want to look back and point at something, it's Game 4. It's Game 4, and I was real
Yeah.
pissed afterwards. And I today I am still pissed about it. That was the series right there. You had a chance to take a commanding lead. I mean, we just saw them lose 3 in a row, so I guess you really can't say they couldn't have lost the series regardless if they were up 3-1.
Yeah.
However, like, you scored 6 points in the last 7 minutes of a game that you were winning in the fourth quarter at home with a chance to go up 3-1 and take a commanding lead in the finals.
I mean, as much as the turnovers and the offensive rebounds were issues, I feel like that was also the story of the season. Like they just never were able to capitalize. They were never able to, string a consistent offensive flow together for long enough to capitalize. It happened in games 5. Like they'll make this push and then they
Yep.
just fall flat again. And obviously, game 5, the Warriors were the better team, but Boston had the lead in the third quarter, right? Like they had every opportunity to keep that momentum going, and then Jordan Poole hit a 3, and then the Celtics kind of fell apart. And then in game 6, right, they came out hot, and then it just died after the timeout. And no offensive consistency whatsoever from the side of the Celtics in the finals. And realistically speaking, in the entire postseason, they kind of rode the back of their incredible defense, which rightfully so. That's what got them there. But the offense is a mess and needs addressing in the offseason. And that's what I think we're going to be spending the majority of today talking about is the offseason because it's time for that. Um, but before that, I do want to talk about Jason Tatum just because you kind of have to
Yeah, right.
after that finals. And there's nothing really else to say besides he was bad, 3 words, like that, there's no other excuse for it, like, he didn't play up to the standard that people have set for him. I would bet he didn't play up to the standard that he sets for himself. He just had a bad series, but that doesn't mean it's time to get into this, I've seen trade Tatum, obviously, that's not a hot take, or not common take you see, but you've seen people say it. You see people, "Oh, Tatum can't be the number 1, Tatum this, Tatum that." Stop. Get over it. Like that's he had just because he had a bad series doesn't mean he's not the best player on the Celtics team. The best player the Celtics team has had since what? Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, he's a generational talent at this point. He's a top 10 player in the NBA. He's on the Celtics and they have a good team around him. He had a bad series. It's not the end of the world. He's 24 years old and I every time I say that, people are like, "I'm sick of the age argument." I'm like, but it's factual. He's 24, right? Like, that's just a fact. And people have won before. And my buddy who's not a big basketball guy, but he started following a little more. He's like, well, Kobe was winning at this, and I'm like, yeah, but he's not Kobe, right? Like Jason Tatum is not Kobe Bryant.
I
There are
don't want to
very
hear
few
about Kobe
people.
anymore either. I'm sick of that. I'm sick of Tatum making Kobe everything. Like, I don't want I mean, I know that's not what you're
I
doing,
understand. No,
but
no, no, no. I know.
I've seen so much Kobe in the last month and a half. I've had enough.
It's just because, and I hated that too. It's just because he has that picture of him and Kobe as his profile picture. And that's just because they were friends, right? Like they were very close before Kobe passed, and he's had that forever, and people just started to pick on him for it. Um, but the point I'm making is if we're at the point where we're complaining about Jason Tatum by ways of comparing him to what top 15 players of all time, like
Mm.
that's a ridiculous standard, and he can be that, but to say that you have to have a top 15 player of all time to win a championship is kind of crazy, right? Like like they have a good team around him, and he like just stop comparing him to Kobe and LeBron and all these people who were better at a young age. Like I've seen all these memes. It's like, oh, like comparing Tatum and LeBron stats in their first finals run, and then people saying, oh, if LeBron had this Celtics team, he'd be stop. Like it's ridiculous. Jason Tatum had a bad series, and if you want to extend it, he had a bad 2 series, right? He was rough in the Miami series with the turnovers, but he had a bad series in the finals. He didn't play well, and the Celtics lost largely because of it and their own internal issues that they have to figure out as well. But stop comparing him to Kobe Bryant. Stop comparing him to LeBron James. Let him be Jason Tatum and like just stop. It's just Celtics fans, and I stand by this, and I've said this multiple times on this show, are the worst. They have these ridiculously high expectations, and even these expectations, I know even you, Sam, are not going to go to because you understand that Jason Tatum is 24 and he just had a bad series and it happens. I would hope, and I hope you're not going to
Well,
come back at me and say trade him. But
no, I'm not going to say trade him, but
I
I
know,
don't
I know.
think it's not great. Like,
No, it's not good at all.
I
Like he
stand
had to be
by what
better.
I've been saying for months. Like, you're there when you were
Exactly.
there. You were really there in game 4. And you
Yes.
know what really would have helped them win game 4 is if Tatum did anything in the fourth quarter, they would have won that game. They probably would have won a ring, and they didn't. And
Yeah.
coulda, woulda, shoulda. Celtics should have won this series. Does that mean that they deserve to win? No, that's not what I mean when I say they should have. When I say they should have won, I mean they should have executed better.
They had chances.
It was there for them to take.
Yes.
And if you want to say, Sam, you're not giving the Warriors credit, that's not the case. The reason why the Warriors won this series is because when they had chances, they took the chances. And if you want an
Absolutely.
example of that, look at game 6. The Celtics came out, went up 10 points, right? 12 points at one point in the first quarter. Then Golden State calls a timeout. They come out of the timeout, slowly creep back into the game, and then eventually rip off a 21-0 run.
That
Okay.
was such a big swing
The
that whole series.
Celtics had a chance to blow the game open. They were already there for the most part. 12 points is no joke. As an NBA lead, does it mean you're going to hold it for a whole game? No, it's the NBA. Runs happen.
That's why
However,
you have to capitalize.
Exactly. They didn't capitalize when they were playing well in game 6. And you saw they got lazy in the first quarter. The Warriors did the opposite. They started getting hot. They took the lead and then they piled on. They went into the second quarter up 5. They extended it to 10 in the first 50 seconds of the quarter. The Celtics couldn't extend a lead for anything in this series except for in game 1. In game 3, they I guess they blew them out down the stretch, but still, it feels like that game was close for the majority of the time. I believe we're only up 4 going into the fourth quarter of that game, and it was a game they kind of came out similar to game 6 and played well in the first half, and they didn't do anything with it. So the difference between a champion and the runner-up in this case is one team took the chances and the other did not. If you want to go to game 4, the Celtics had plenty of chances to win that game. They only gave up what, 17 points in the back half of that fourth quarter. It wasn't like Golden State was scoring at will. And if you take away the free throws at the end, it's even less.
Yeah.
And you still lost with a 5-point lead at one point. In game 5, you're in the third quarter. You're starting to pull away. You look good. You're up 5 or 6. You don't close the quarter. You go in the fourth down 1. These were stretches that they had to capitalize on. And it doesn't always happen at the end of the game. I think game 4, throughout that game, they had plenty of chances to extend the lead. I've probably complained about this time and time again on pregame, on the pod. They did not take any opportunities in this series or throughout the playoff run. And it sounds like a broken record, and you've heard it everywhere. This team made everything hard on themselves, and it finally caught up to them. They finally weren't able to get away with it. They got away with it against Milwaukee. They got away with it against Miami. They didn't get away with it against the Warriors, and they had to watch them celebrate on their home floor. They had to watch Draymond tweet, which is fine, by the way. Let him tweet if you're upset at him.
Exactly.
I don't know what to tell
Yep.
you. But listen, let it sink in if you're the Celtics. Think about what you did, right? We're not mad. We're just disappointed because you were there. You had the chance to win. There's no excuse to why you didn't win other than you got outclassed. And I believe you were the one that said that in the pregame,
Yeah.
and there is no better description because, again, Golden State took the chances. You did not. That's the difference.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was just gonna say the word I used to describe the finals was they were outclassed, and that's the difference between a team that's been there before and a team that hasn't. And going in, I was of the mindset that this experience thing is overrated. Celtics have proved they're a good team, but I was wrong. The experience thing absolutely came into play because when the Celtics needed to make those runs and they needed to capitalize and they needed to take advantage of the moment, they couldn't do it. And the Warriors, having been there before, having known the situation, they were able to capitalize, and that was the big difference throughout the series. I think, like you said, the timeouts just in games 1 through 6, every single game, Steve Kerr had a timeout, and the Warriors responded. And that's not a knock on Ime Udoka for not taking the right timeouts. That's a knock on the Celtics for not responding correctly when the timeouts were called. And that was the difference. And I think this is a good learning experience. Obviously, once you get to the finals, you don't want to have to call it that, but that's exactly what it is at this point after they lost. Right? They're going to learn from this. They're going to learn that they know what to do now. They've been there before. They know the moment, and hopefully they take that and they grow from it. And that's all you can hope for at this point. But that's not to take away from the phenomenal season they had, right? Like this was one of the best Celtics seasons I've gotten to watch in a long time. Obviously, the first half was painful, but the way they brought it back and the postseason run they had was amazing, right? And just because they lost in the finals doesn't take away from that. It might take away from the overall viewpoint of the season for most people because you were there and you had that chance. But in the grand scheme of things, this was just an amazing season by the Celtics, and they surpassed a lot of expectations, I will say, because I remember in our preseason predictions, I think I said something like, get to the second round. I think that's a good goal. If they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, that's a bonus. And you might have said something similar. Maybe you were hoping for the Eastern Conference Finals, but the fact that they got to the finals, especially after that start, surpassed all the expectations I had for this team. So I was very pleased with the way they played, and this is a perfect building block for the future. And they'll have even higher expectations next year. I'll put it that way.
I'll tell you one thing I did say in the preseason is that Golden State would be good, and here they are.
That you did.
Um,
That you
and
did.
I stood by. I didn't understand why people didn't think so. I just was like, listen, they got their guys back, man. I don't know what else to tell you. That's a good team right there. However, it's possible for on the Celtics side of things, both things to be true. Did the
Yeah.
Celtics have a great season? Absolutely. This is the first time they've been to the finals in 12 years. Fantastic. You didn't lose in the Eastern Conference. You finally got over that hump. I remember watching the game 7 of the Miami series and really thinking, oh my God, they're going to blow this. Oh my God, they really can't get over this hump. And then they got lucky. Butler missed the shot and they go to the finals. However, stand by it. You were there. You should have won. And it's not like you came out and you were like decisively the worst team. You were up 2-1, had the chance to go up 3-1. You didn't take it. So it's possible to be proud and disappointed at the same time. I think that is the correct disposition to have with this team. I don't think you should be ripping them, but I don't think you should be throwing a party either. I think they deserve their praise, but they've got work to do. And I think it's kind of a loser mentality if you're just thrilled that they made the finals. Like, were they 18-21 in January? Yeah. But they were 51-31 at the end of the year, and they were looking like a team that had that record. It's not different. The circumstances don't do anything for me. The circumstances that matter are you were in the finals with the golden chance to go up 3-1 and you didn't take it. That at the end of the day, if you're the team, is what I want to be the takeaway. Not that it was great that you made it there, because it is great they made it there, but it's not the job done. You don't hang banners for that. And at the end of the day, you failed on the big stage. And if you're listening, you can get mad at me all you want. I'm telling you, it's possible to be proud of what they did, but disappointed at the same time. And
Of
then
course.
I'm both, but I'm more disappointed.
Both are true. Both are true. And I think it stings more now because we're still only a week out, less than a week out from them losing in the finals in the fashion that they did. Essentially not showing up in spurts, which was very frustrating. But I'll put it in perspective. I went over, if you're watching on YouTube, you saw me leave the screen. I got my iPad because I have notes from our previous shows. And let me read you some of the notes I was writing on December 30th, Sam. Lost for answers. What is wrong? This is a big enough sample size to make a judgment on this team. Those are my first 3 notes. I don't even know what was the Celtics record at this point. Let me look. Standings.
I don't know, but I know the next day they went out and beat Phoenix. Nice
that they did.
We're tied for voice cracks today, by the way.
1-1. On the 30th, the Celtics were 16-19, 3 games below 500. Also, I wrote Jaylen Brown, 0 assists. This was after the Minnesota game. Trade ? Is he gone ? Dennis Schroeder ? Trade time. Smart trade. Is Robert Williams safe? Is Jaylen Brown on the block? How much blame should Ime Udoka get? Hearts for Grant Williams is the only positive I have on my sheet of paper here.
Dude, I'm telling you,
that's where we're at.
During those times, I never said to break those guys up. And I never said trading Smart was the solution. I said you might have to do it if a deal's there. I did eventually say I didn't think they should do it, but I recognize that if something's not working, that was what they should do, not split those guys up. I just couldn't believe they were saying those guys couldn't play together. Brown and Tatum couldn't play together.
They had before, because that was
you were telling me not. You were saying it was different. And
what do
I
you
was
mean?
You were saying when they made the conference finals runs the first 2 times, it was different.
I agree. I still stand by that. It was different.
But listen, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at this point. I'm not going to.
They did it. Yes, you're right. We don't have to talk about that. My point is a lot has changed in those months, and a lot of people have shut up, and a lot of people have been proven wrong, which you love to see. And the biggest thing that always pissed me off the most was the Ime Udoka slander, because I never understood that. I think, like you,
I've
always say,
never been a
blaming
blame the coach guy. And you just said blaming the coach is lazy. It's a loser
Absolutely.
thing to do. The coach is not the guy out there on the floor. If you want to blame a coach,
there are very few times when it is allowed.
I think blaming the coach is only really appropriate in a playoff situation, because that to me is where a coach makes his money. When you want to compare like a Steve Nash to somebody else, or people like to throw Doc under the bus with his blown leads.
Budenholzer in 2020.
I mean, Budenholzer wouldn't be employed if KD's foot wasn't on the line. He wasn't good in this. He wasn't good in this series this year.
I know he wasn't. He stood by George Hill no matter how many times he proved he should not be on the court. Brutal. No, yeah, and the few times Coach can be blamed, Jim Boylan in Chicago a couple years ago, yikes, that was awful. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember
Do
that.
you remember when he was like,
He,
I
like,
forget who
told
it
Levine to
was,
come out or something, and he said no, or he told him to do
something
something, he
like
said
that,
no.
and there I forget the player,
By the way,
Daniel
who
Gafford.
who at that point, who's Levine to say no to anybody?
Well, he had 40 points, and
I don't
Boylan pulled
care.
him in the last 2 minutes. Nah, 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 you
I'm
got
sure they
40
were
in the last.
running away with the game.
It was a close game. It was a close game was the point. But the big thing that was crazy was Daniel Gafford got hurt. Jim Boylan wouldn't call a timeout, and Monty Williams had to call a timeout for him. So, like, the Suns called a timeout to get Daniel Gafford. Like,
That's whack. See, that to me is just weird. I don't
crazy.
know. Some guys just get "you're not gonna tell me" kinda mentality, and then that's what you get.
Very weird.
Thibodeau's the same
And
way.
then
People get sick of him quick. He's kind of burned his bridges in New York now. People are really getting sick of him. Randall's
and then
being a pain in the ass over there.
Nate Bjorkson last year with the Pacers, he fell out of favor real quick. You remember him? In 1 year,
I remember him, but I don't remember why he fell out of favor.
just the locker room just didn't like him. Like, they just did not like him. Tough. But anyways, moving on from the coach slander talk, which we weirdly got into a tangent about. It's the off season now. Sam, I know that's your favorite time of the year. You love talking about hypotheticals instead of actual gameplay, right? This it's your favorite.
It's fun for a change. It is
It
fun
is,
for a
right?
change.
I'm excited right now. We were talking about this. That was such a long season, right? And you love that they did it. You love that they got that far.
I wish they would do it every
Obviously,
year. So you have to
exactly,
win.
exactly. But I am burnt out. I've been trying my best to keep up with articles and everything and keep going and pushing and switching to the draft because the draft is in 2 days at this point when we're recording 1 day, when you
Really
guys are listening
is.
to this, but
I will not want
it's
to look at
wild.
the draft.
It's wild. Are you gonna watch the draft?
No.
You're not gonna watch the draft.
I gotta get up in the morning the next day, dog. Celtics don't have a first round pick. What do I care?
Gotcha. All right. Do you wanna talk about off-season moves first, or do you wanna talk about the draft first?
Off season because they don't have a first round pick, so who cares?
Okay. All right. So for off-season, I have written down, I have options, Fournier, TPE. What do they need? Which one of
Hmm.
those points do you want to hit first?
Um, why don't we start off with the fun stuff? The old rumors. You've seen it. All the chatter. The old friend there, Kyrie, is once again
Uh,
reportedly burned his bridges, and the streets are begging for Kevin Durant to come along. However, today I realized he signed an extension. I no longer have interest in that because he's going to be old and they would have to pay him a lot of money if for some magical way they got him to play on the Celtics.
yeah.
Um, so I think that's significantly less fun. You know how much I hate big contracts for
Yep.
guys that aren't necessarily going to be worth the money at some point. Is Durant worth
But
the
if
money
there was
now?
one
Sure.
guy, if there was one guy who I think could defy that, it would probably be Kevin Durant.
I
I
love
feel like he'll
Durant.
still be good.
Durant's my
He's
favorite
so
player
good.
to watch that isn't on the Celtics. And
Yeah.
overall, I just think he's so fun to watch because he's so skilled. And I mean, he
He's
makes a
awesome.
bunch of jump shots. He still shoots the mid range. He's just,
Is he second in the league? Top two? Where do you rank him
I
in
mean,
the league
before the
right now?
playoffs, I would have told you he was number one.
But now two.
Yeah, he's probably two behind Giannis.
I agree. I agree. I saw a list on Twitter. So take that with the grain of salt that it
At least it
deserves.
wasn't Instagram.
No, no. It might as well have been. Just this is just a fun tangent I'm going to go on because I saw just a horrific list of names in order that sparked a conversation between me and my buddy, like giving our own lists. Let me find this real quick. Number one on the list, Jokic, Embiid, Giannis was the first order, and I'm like, all right, I
Well, he won
don't
the
think that's correct.
MVP. What do you
Yeah, it's
want
fair
out of the
enough.
man?
And then Steph was 4, KD was 6, was 5, Kawhi was 6 after not playing, and Zion was 7.
Zion. I said something mean about Zion the other day. Did you see that?
No, what did he say?
Somebody like put one of those tweets that had a picture of Zion greater than sign
Over.
Tatum, and it had a picture of it was Tatum and LeBron in the same
Yeah,
picture.
yeah,
And then
obviously trolling.
I quote tweeted it and said, "Yeah, if you're talking about weight." And then like some people actually got mad. They were like,
I
"This
did
is
see the
corny."
tweet.
And I was like, "Well, you didn't like it." And then I was like,
Thought I saw the tweet.
"No, you did. You probably saw it, but you didn't leave a like.
Oh, shit. Well,
You
I'll do
didn't
that now. You
support
keep
me."
going. I'll keep supporting. You keep going.
And like people are like mad. It's like one, I'm like half joking, and two, it's literally his job to be in shape. So like, what are you complaining about? It's not like he can't change his weight. He's a professional athlete. Get in shape. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
Very
course.
nice of Jack. He liked my tweet. And maybe
Oh, yeah,
you'll
people
be
got real
scrolling through
mad.
Twitter now. Yeah, people were not happy about that, which is like fine. I thought about deleting it for a second. I was like, nah, I can't do that.
If those comments are what make you delete it, you should see some of the shit I get ratioed for.
Well, I'm
Next.
not used to that. And plus, the guy that said ratio didn't even ratio me, so get fucked.
Yeah, no, he's
Which I
lame.
very rarely will curse on these things. I try and go by radio rules, but that guy can get fucked. Said ratio.
I curse a little more than I should. Anyways, yeah, Zion at number 7 on the list, the Twitter list I saw was crazy, but if I had to pick a top 3, this is another tangent. It's Giannis, it's KD, and then it's probably Jokic. I'd put it 3, with Steph and Embiid to follow. And then after that, I don't even know. But Tatum's in the top 10, as is Jimmy Butler, as is Devin Booker. I'll put it that way. There's a fun
I'm
fact
interested
for
to
you.
see Jimmy Butler next season. I think
Me too.
we might start seeing him fall off a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. We've got the super fun KD stuff, and also the odds came out from Vegas. The most likely destination for Bradley Beal, if he's not in the Wizards, is also the Celtics. I don't care for that move. There are
Nah,
people that care for that move,
nah.
and I just don't know how you're making it happen. Are you taking Horford out of this team? Who, by the way, it's been reported that they want to talk to about a multi-year extension on a team-friendly deal, which is good news. I wish they could restructure this year, but they can't.
Yeah, that'd be ideal, but they cannot.
The only thing I discussed with a friend, this is kind of all tied in, is like, all right, if they trade like Horford for Beal or whatever, because that was just discussed. It was just something that was discussed.
Mhm.
And then like Washington's like, all right, we're gonna buy out Horford, and then he comes back.
You can't do that.
What do you mean you can't do that?
You can't
Is
if
that
you get
against?
bought
Is there a
out.
literal
It's
rule?
1 year. He couldn't do it till next year. It's like Goran Dragic. If he got bought out by the Raptors, the Heat couldn't sign him. But if he got traded and then bought out by the Raptors, then they could have signed him. Like it's like you can't. I'm trying to figure out the best way.
No, that's what it would be. That's what I mean. They
No,
would
no, no,
trade
no.
him. No, that's what you just said.
Goran Dragic got traded to the Raptors. If
Yes.
the Raptors bought him out, the Heat can't sign him. But since he got traded and then that new team bought him out, you know what I'm saying? It's like a one-team buffer. You can't go directly like back and forth because that's like CBA or something like that.
Well, that's
So
cool.
the Wizards would have to trade him again, have him get bought out, and then he could come back to the Celtics.
Now, is that the rule if you get traded and then your contract runs up?
No. Once
No.
you're a free agent, you're a free agent. You can go wherever you want, but you can't like get bought out by a team and then
Well, I mean, it's good they do that, but they should really crack down on them just going to power teams.
yeah. I mean, because we all know how well the Blake Griffin signing worked out a couple years ago.
It's still annoying. Like it is still annoying. He shouldn't have been rewarded with like being able to join that team. I stand by it.
I know.
And those of you listening, this is the content you just live for. Me complaining about nothing
You love it.
because it's the
course.
off season and there's no legitimate stuff for me to complain about.
The least the Celtics could give up in a trade for Beal. Like, say Beal says, I want to go to Boston, and the Wizards' hands are tied. The most underwhelming package the Celtics could give up would be Derek White, Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, and then filler, like a Juwan Morgan,
Okay.
end of the bench guy, which is
That,
fine.
however, that is if he wants money.
Exactly. This is if Bradley Beal,
which is not a guarantee.
Not even money, because he'd get the most money in Washington, right? Like they can offer him more than other teams.
Well, if they do a sign and trade, then they can do that regardless, wherever he wants to play. If they get stuff back, he signs the contract with Washington, they trade the Supermax. However, what if he just wants to win? What if he's like, give me a deal that fits?
Then, I mean, you're talking crazy now. Beal would have to.
I don't know how crazy.
Like,
I feel like I'm sorry, I'm not letting you talk. If Vegas has it at plus 300, do you think what if they know something? Or what if maybe they're just saying they're buddies, like Tatum and
I just think it's that they're buddies and that he could force his way. The only way you could get Beal without giving up Derek White, Al Horford, like just Tice, Neesmith, and Filler, which won't happen. This is completely ridiculous talk, but I'm indulging anyways. Would be if Beal signed for like $15 million, which I don't think is realistic at all. No
That'd be
shot.
fire. That'd be so
Yeah, which
fire.
I don't think could happen at all. But in the grand scheme of things, if Beal's on a max contract, which he will be, absolutely, I don't want him. I don't think he
I agree.
is necessarily a good fit in Boston. And maybe this is a hot take. I'd rather have Derek White. I'd rather have Derek White on the team than Bradley Beal. Especially
That
considering
might be a little
contracts.
of a hot take.
Well, considering contracts and every, you know what?
Well,
Actually,
if
screw
he's
it.
on a max deal, then I agree
Nah,
with you. But
screw it.
if
I'll go on in. If you put them on the same contracts, give me Derek White anyways. Yeah, absolutely. I'll stick to that.
but
Absolutely.
to go to classic Sam fashion here, Brad Beal is not a player I'd pay the max. He is not a player you should be giving. Let's see if he gets the supermax. What does he get? 50 million.
He'll have 50
That's a
by the end.
joke. He should be getting half of that.
Actually, let me
He should get
I
half.
can tell you. 25.
Yeah, I think that's
25 is what
appropriate.
you would pay him. Let's
25
see.
is appropriate.
I can tell you exactly what he'd make. So if he gets the super max from the Wizards, he would get 55.9 million by the end of his 5 years. Signing with another
Ugh.
team, he'd be making 48.7 at the end of his 5.
That's disgusting.
And getting, he'd get 50 million on all of his extensions essentially by the end of this contract, which he's gonna get, and he's gonna get. But that is where we're at with Bradley Beal. I don't want him on the Celtics. I'd rather have Derek White because he gives you defense. And for all of these, well, at least Bradley Beal can shoot. No, he can't. Stop. Look at the numbers. Look at his last season. Bradley Beal is not a shooter. He's a scorer. And there's a difference. And there's absolutely a difference. And I'll tell you,
it wouldn't hurt to have more of a scorer. But how, on the other hand, like, does he play a lot of defense? Not necessarily.
Beal shot 30% from 3 last season. 30.
Dude, imagine if he played on the Celtics and shot 30%.
Like
you have people that want Marcus Smart on a platter.
For real.
When he's not necessarily supposed to be somebody that shoots well. And like literally all these people are saying Beal can shoot, and then he would come here and shoot 30%. Oof.
Derek White shot better from 3 last season than Bradley Beal did. And people were complaining about Derek White shooting. So there you go.
Yeah, I would have liked to see Derek White make a few more in the back end of the finals, but it's not.
And I'm all for the Celtics adding another scorer. Like, that's fine, adding more shot creation. I just don't think it should be a $30 million, $50 million scorer, right? Like,
yep.
I'm trying to think of options. I mean, Kyle Kuzma tweeted like something about Boston the other day. That was interesting. I wouldn't hate Kyle Kuzma on this team. I think he'd be a good fit. He fits into the TPE. He can be third or fourth scoring option on the team. And as crazy as it sounds, he's proven that he can be a third or fourth option on a championship caliber team with a lot less help than the Celtics have. So
I'd be good off the bench.
Exactly. Absolutely, he would be. And realistically speaking, if Horford starts to get older, I wouldn't even hate him in the starting lineup, right? You put Kyle Kuzma at the 4, Tatum at the 3, and this is obviously a couple years down the line, but Kuzma's not a bad player, man. He averaged 18 last season and is a great rebounder, which is something the Celtics very clearly need. So I'll take Kuzma. Excuse me. Other guys, a cheap option I've seen float around, TJ Warren, probably on a prove it deal because he hasn't played in 2 seasons. So you'd probably get him ideally on a similar contract or a similar sort of situation to the one Oladipo had with the Heat last season. 1 year minimum deal to come prove something. I've seen Dylan Brooks floated, which I don't understand why the Grizzlies would trade him, but he's in the last year of his contract, so maybe the Grizzlies don't want to pay him. He fits into the TPE, could grab him, good defensive guy. Probably wouldn't want him to take as many shots in Boston, but there's that as well. And then Will Barton is the other name I've seen because Nuggets are looking to trade him, but I think they probably want to trade him for more help. So I don't know if the Celtics can do that, but if they just want to dump the contract for picks or something, I think you take that if you're Boston. He makes like $14 million. He's a good scorer. He's a solid defender. I mean, he's just like a 3-and-D guy you could bring into the team. So I wouldn't hate Will Barton either, but the guy I really want that is probably the most realistic, excuse me, as I cough in the microphone, is one of the Martins. I want one of the Martin twins. I don't think the Celtics need necessarily anything big. You'd like to see them use the Fournier TPE, but I think it's probably 50-50 on whether or not they use it at this point.
They're not using that thing.
Yeah, I think, I mean, and they have other ones. They have like an $8 million TPE, so they have other things they can use to get decent guys. But I think the real goal should be getting one or two more playable players off the bench. You look at the finals, and depth really became a factor again. Derek White went cold, Grant Williams got cold, Peyton Pritchard went cold, and they had nobody else to turn to. The next option
Yeah.
was Aaron Nesmith, who has been unplayable, and after that, it's what Sam Hauser, Malik Fitz, Juwan Morgan. That's just not going to fly. So you need an extra guy to come off the bench at the wing position, maybe two that can get minutes. And I think Cody Martin and Caleb Martin are the two ideal ones. I think Caleb will probably end up going back to the Heat, but Charlotte is in a constant state of not knowing what they're doing. So if the Celtics can steal Cody Martin for $3-4 million a year, maybe even the full MLE of 6.5, I wouldn't hate that. Right? He's a phenomenal defender. He can hit his threes. Like, excuse me, what did Cody Martin shoot from three last season? Because I guarantee you it was something good.
I have no
From three
clue.
last season, Cody Martin shot 38.4% from three on 2.2 attempts per game. That's almost exactly what you'd want from him in Boston. Come in, play solid defense, take your 2 threes a game, be on your way. That's exactly what you need from the guy on the end of the bench as your 9-man. And then past that, I really just think anybody that can defend and shoot. That's what you need. I want one of the Martins, and then I want another guard wing combo that can defend and shoot. And ideally, that's Aaron Nesmith. But at this point in his career, I have no confidence that he can ever be that guy.
Well, it's funny. I was thinking a lot about Neesmith lately. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not putting all the eggs in the Neesmith basket, but it sure would be helpful if he could do something.
If he could just
Because
make his shots like he was supposed to.
the guy plays with a crazy energy, which is real good. The problem is he can't make any threes, which is the reason why he was drafted. So if he's able to start making threes, which is, easier said than done, I think there's a mental aspect to that going on with
I
Neesmith
mean,
too.
did you hear what he said in his
No.
exit interview? He basically said, "I'm a phenomenal shooter, and I know that. It's just about being better and breaking the mental thing." And I don't think he wants
Yeah.
to play in
It's,
summer league either, which is crazy. But
I mean, at a certain point,
wild.
what is it going to do for you? And I
Also true.
saw Keith tweet about or Greenberg tweet about Grant not playing summer league last year, and he played great this season. So
True.
who knows, man? It could be a real good thing for Neesmith, but he would be a big help if he could do something. And I'm not trying
He
to
just
like
make his shots.
I'm not trying to like make fun of him because like I don't know, like what's the point in that? But seriously, if he could contribute and be the best version of himself and play a role on the Celtics, it would be such a big help because one, they really don't have any money to sign anybody, and two, they need a wing scorer off the bench, somebody that they can rely on. Like you said in the finals, everybody off the bench went ghost at the back end of the series. If he's able to give you something, that's a massive help. And he's
Oh,
not
yeah.
like bad on defense. That's one thing for Neesmith. I can say he's not too bad. He played a
Yeah.
pretty good job. Played a pretty good job. Jeez, Sam. Did a pretty good job on Middleton, specifically in the last game they played against Milwaukee in the regular season when nobody played for the Celtics and the game was still close and they really should have beat Milwaukee without anybody playing. And they had Neesmith coming down guarding Middleton. He was good.
Yeah.
He can absolutely contribute if he can just get his shots to fall. If that guy starts making threes, people are going to love that guy. And you're going to stop hearing
Absolutely.
about Desmond Bain. You're going to stop hearing about all these other guys that they could have
Well-
had, should have had, Sadiq Bey. Like, and I'm telling you, if those guys play for the Celtics, there's no guarantee they turn out that way. The opportunity is a big part, and I stand by that. But if he's able
true.
to start doing something offensively, you watch out. Neesmith has my favorite play of the season. He had a coast-to-coast dunk against Philly that I thought ruled. And
Yeah,
I
remember that.
just thought it was such a great play, and it was such good energy at the time. That was probably my favorite play of the season.
He just needs to make his shots. That's all it is. If he can start making those shots, then he'll get minutes. But until he can, he absolutely cannot.
He
be
has
on
to earn
floor.
the minutes. He shouldn't just be
He's-
given minutes. I agree with that.
Exactly. He's an offensive liability right
needs
now.
to step in with lethal shooter there and figure it out, or go to therapy, which
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with. Like therapy, all these teams have, mental professionals,
Absolutely.
therapists, whatever you want to call them. They all have them. Figure out whatever's
Mhm.
wrong mentally. It's not easy to get over that hurdle as a player. The yips are a real thing. You can see many examples of that throughout sports, especially baseball, throughout history. Like it's a thing. And if he's able to get over that and contribute for the Celtics, that's a huge thing. That they don't have to pay somebody to come in and contribute and bring in extra help. Do they have TPEs? Yeah, they do. Do they have a 17 million one? Yeah. Does that mean they're going to use it? No. Do they have an MLE? Yeah. Does that mean they're going to get anybody significant? No. I
Wick
would love
did
to see
hint
them.
that he's willing to spend, though. He did hint at that
Yeah,
during
but
his
you
interview
can only
today.
spend what you're allowed to.
Exactly, but
You have to legally spend. And
yes.
honestly, you're the owner. You should want to spend, dummy.
Yes, but that's been an issue in the past, so I'll take the progress from Wick.
Yeah, it's a loser thing not to want to
I
spend
know,
with
I
this
know.
with this particular franchise and the talent you've had come through recently, and all of a sudden not wanting to spend is such a loser move. We talked about it at the
Speaking
deadline the last couple of years, trying to
yes.
cut under the tax. Such a loser move.
Speaking of spending, I'm gonna run some names by you, and you tell me whether or not you think it'd be worth it. The Celtics have the 17 million TPE. They have a 6 point something million. I'm reading. Shout out Yos. I'm so gonna butcher this name. Yossi Goslin of Hoop
Yossi.
Type.
I
Yossi, do
saw
you know Yossi?
well in his bio, it literally tells you how to pronounce the guy's name.
Okay, perfect. Yossi Goslin.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry about that. Wrote an article about the Celtics offseason. He brought up some intriguing options, and I wanted to run them by you. They'll have a $6.4 million MLE that they can use, and then that 17.1 million TPE they have um, to use as well. And then they have 6.9 million, 5.9 million TPEs as well. So they'll have plenty of options. I brought up Will Barton and Dylan Brooks. What do you think of those guys? I'd probably lean towards Will Barton because it seems more realistic, but I wouldn't mind either.
You're not getting Dylan Brooks, and if you are, what are the Grizzlies doing? The Grizzlies should be in a position like the Celtics where they should want to spend money. That's a good team. Ja's a good player. The rest of those guys played excellent around him this season. They won a ton of games when Ja didn't play, which you let Tim and I know about in a pregame show sometime in the
Absolutely, I
middle of the
did.
season. So if you're the Memphis owners and you want to spend money on Dylan Brooks, who is a big part of what you do there, it's a loser move. So I don't think that's
Barton?
realistic either. Barton, I don't know. Is he really that great of a defender? I don't really know if I've ever heard about
He's
his
a fine
defense.
defender. I don't think he's not like a defensive-minded guy, but he's not one of those guys you look
How
at and
long is
say
his
he's a
contract?
liability.
For 6 million?
It's expiring. Yeah, 14 million, but expiring.
I would pay him 6 million. Oh, or for the
No,
TP for 1 year.
TP. He makes 14 mil.
Yeah, all right, fine. I mean, fine. At this point, if you're getting someone for free, there's no hurt in putting them in the TP unless they're like a cancer, which he doesn't seem to be a cancer. He's whatever.
Next guy I've seen floated, Duncan Robinson, and this is one of the guys I've seen floated as
This has
more
been
realistic.
controversial.
That's like a
Does
very
he
realistic
fit?
one. He does
He
fit the TP.
fits.
Right now, he does. At
My
the end of
answer
his
is
contract,
going to
I think
be
he will.
no. Even though I like Duncan Robinson, the reason why I say no is I hate big money deals for guys that might not deserve them, whether it's those guys that want to get paid $50 million or Duncan Robinson, who's going to be making 20 by the end of his contract.
I think it's 19, so it's effectively
It's close. Same thing. Prick.
okay, it's closer to 20, but the 20 is not guaranteed. So
there you
we
go.
were both right. Go ahead.
So, I mean, the guy was unplayable in the conference finals against the Celtics. I mean, they tried putting him out there. One, he couldn't make any threes, and two, he can't play defense. So, what are you doing having him out there because his name's on the back of his jersey?
I want to push back a little bit. He was bad in the playoffs. He shot well. No, I'm not even going to go that
He
far.
lost his spot in the rotation, Jack.
I know. He lost his spot in the rotation because Miami found someone who gave them exactly what he did that could also play defense, right? A little bit
Exactly.
of defense. Max Strus is fine defender. Exactly. But that doesn't mean there's not a place for Duncan Robinson in the NBA, right? The Miami Heat were a very successful team with Robinson on the team, hitting shots and not being great on defense, right? They made the NBA finals with it, as much as that stings, realistically speaking. There are ways to make him work on a great defensive team where he's on the floor. And if you are the Celtics, sure.
And
but if
you have to get lucky enough to play a team in the conference finals that melts when they see his own.
If you're the Celtics, you have the personnel where he can get 20 minutes a night, right? And paying X amount of money for 20 minutes a night is not great. But when you consider the fact that Miami probably just wants to move him and get off the contract and you'd get him for basically free, I make that deal. Realistically speaking, if he fine, I'm just presenting my argument. If he can get, and the notion that he was a bad shooter last season is crazy. He shot, what did he shoot in the regular season? He shot 37% in the regular season, which isn't bad. at all. I think that'd be what, top 3 on the Celtics, right? Like he's a good shooter. And then in the postseason, he shot 38%. Like Duncan Robinson being a bad shooter is the equivalent of Marcus Smart being a phenomenal shooter. I'll put it that way. Right? He just came down a little bit. And if he can get like even halfway between his historically great shooting, I'm going to repeat that. His historically great, never seen before shooting percentages on that volume. And this season where he was probably a slightly above average shooter, in between that makes him the best shooter on the Celtics. So if you can get 20 to 25 minutes out of him in the regular season where he's making those shots and providing just elite spacing and the off-ball movement we've all begged for the Celtics to do for their entire the entire formation of this core ever I've been begging, I don't know about you, for just move a little bit off the ball. Just find some space. Don't stand there while Jason Tatum hits ISO shots. Duncan Robinson is amazing off the ball. He can move around, he can do whatever they need. They can set screens for him and they can run plays for Duncan Robinson where Jason Tatum would have so much room to work and make the right pass. If you can get him on here to do that, I think you do it, especially because he would probably be free. Free. Easy pickup, not going to cost you anything. If anything, you dump Aaron Nesmith to Miami just because you want to get off that contract.
You bet your
Make it
ass
work.
you'd send Nesmith down there and he'd play good too.
Of
Tell you
course,
right now.
but my point is you bring Duncan Robinson in here because he has proven that he can play. And even if you get to the playoffs and you can't have him on the floor because of he's not good on defense, he's still going to take a huge weight off of the Jays in the regular season. He's still going to be a great regular season player. And in the playoffs, if you need that extra scoring boost, you have an elite 3-point shooter. And I'll stand by that. He's still an elite 3-point shooter. So that's why I make the deal, especially because he's FREE free right now because his value is at an all-time low. And I can't imagine he's ever going to shoot any worse than he did this season. And still this season, he was an above average 3-point shooter.
Okay,
That's my argument.
I'm going to counter because you just played Miami in the conference finals. Okay. They are a team that is looking to compete with you. They are a team that is somewhat locked with what they can do with money. And you letting them get off that, what right now is a bad contract, is not necessarily going to help yourself. Now, if it works out, which I mean, if they do it and it works out, fantastic. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to see him play well here. He's local, fine. I love that more than anything. I'd love to see a local kid on the team. However, I don't like the idea of helping that team be flexible.
I don't like that argument and not like that you specifically made it. I generally, and you know this, push back on the argument of don't make trade with this team because of who they are as a team and where they are. Just because I think this is a move that could help the Celtics. And if there is a move that can help the Celtics, I don't care about what the other team gets.
I
If
also don't
think
want them to be tied up down the road because this is a chunk of money that you're going to have to continue to pay him. And the problem with that is after this season, right? The reports right now that I saw from that guy, Yossi, that you just cited, he's the source on this too. Horford's going to take this team-friendly deal or whatever. You're finally going to have a little bit more flexibility with what you can do.
I don't think you will.
I don't know how it works. You're probably more. I hate money. I hate talking about money because I never know how it works.
Not like this isn't because of like some intimate knowledge I have that you don't or anything. It's just because I think the money that Horford gives up in his team friendly deal will probably go to paying Grant Williams and probably go to paying Peyton.
That's
Pritchard.
fair. That's fair. Okay,
That's
fair
what I'm
enough.
thinking.
But regardless, even if listen, you have bird rights, so this doesn't necessarily apply. But okay, you can use it to pay somebody, and
Sure.
whether it's Duncan Robinson or it's somebody else, who's the better fit? You don't know because you don't know who the other person is.
I am
just
also of the
speaking
belief.
nonsense.
Yeah, I'm also of the belief that Duncan Robinson will never play worse than this, which also means that his value will.
I think
go up
that's
from
fair.
here.
I think that's very fair.
I think you trade for him, and not only will he be a good fit on this team because of the shooting, but I also think his value will recoup enough where you can probably trade him to another team for seconds and clear up that money you're thinking of if you really wanted to. So that's where I'm at. I'm all for Duncan Robinson, but other names, and we can run through these quickly because I do want to give you a couple guys that I want in the draft, even though I know you don't care. I just want to rattle them off. Marcus Morris, old friend, fits into the TBE. Clippers looking to trade him.
See, I like that. There we go. This is I forgot about that. I saw this. One, he can wear the same number, which I like. I think it's weird if they don't wear the same number. It looks strange.
Mhm.
Cantor, number one example, and look how well he played. Two, Marcus Morris is a good scorer. He plays good defense, and he lit the Celtics up back in December when they decided
Mhm.
not to make any threes that day, and they kept shooting them.
Yeah.
That was a big Marcus Morris game. He would be an excellent person to have come off your bench, and he's tough. He would probably like him and Ime would feed off each other, making fun of these like soft guys on the team, like telling Tatum to
Yeah.
like calling him names and stuff. Oh, that would
The
be so
only
awesome.
the only downside is the reports say they want to trade Morris to facilitate a bigger improvement. But if they get to the point where they just want to get off the contract, the Celtics are there with the DP, or let's say this magical, mythical Kyrie Irving deal happens. The Clippers send out Reggie Jackson, Powell, Luke Kennard, and Marcus Morris, but the Nets can't take on that much money. Celtics right there with the TPE to facilitate the deal and take on Morris. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So there are avenues where that deal could happen, but right now it looks like they want to use him to improve. But if it gets to the point where they just want to get off the money, Celtics are there, could give him a second, blah, 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 TPE easy. The last two guys are MLE names. Obviously, there was Cody Martin, who I think is my ideal fit, but the two names that Yossi brought up, Yossi, right? I keep messing that up. I feel like okay,
Yossi.
Yossi's great. Love it. Bruce Brown and Gary Payton the second.
Bruce Brown. I've been hammering the Bruce Brown train since the first round, but really before that, I just think it's again
Since
awesome.
last offseason.
He's from the area. I think that's awesome. I don't think he's going to fit in the money. Pat Connaughton is another guy I'd really love. I don't know if you could. If I'm Milwaukee, I'm telling the Celtics to screw if you want to do a sign and trade for Connaughton. But you can make him fit into the TPE. I don't know if that's how it works with signing trades.
I don't
I have
think
a
you
feeling
can,
it's
but
not the way that can work. But if you can find a way to get that guy to come play for the Celtics, that would rule. He
Mhm.
could play defense. He made every big shot in the Milwaukee series. He was a big pain in the ass. If you could get him to play here, if you get Bruce Brown to play here, it would be real cool. I think Connaughton's the better fit. I think you already kind of have guys to play a role that Bruce Brown would play. Derek White is a better version of Bruce Brown. He can facilitate a little better. He's a little taller, a little bigger, can guard bigger guys. Also, Pritchard is another guy that would like split minutes with him. And I think Pritchard still has a spot on this team with the way he can shoot and score in big
Absolutely.
bursts and small minutes. But if you can get Bruce Brown to play on the Celtics, that'd be pretty cool. So I'm all for that. And Gary Payton, I don't think is going to leave.
Yeah, that's what's possible. But the Warriors, I don't think they can pay him. So if he does want a little bit more money, like Celtics give him $5 million.
What do they hit the hard cap?
Yeah, they're
We
extremely
need to
hard-capped.
do a pod with Keith Smith so we can educate me at the
I
very
agree.
least.
I agree. I'll
Because I don't know anything about all this, and I'm sick of not knowing things about this. But like trying to read up about like money, I can't do it. I can't
Yeah.
I can't learn that way. And I'm sorry if you're listening and you want Jack and I to tell you things you don't know. But in this, I'm a simpleton. Like I don't know anything. I know there's a salary cap. I know when you draft guys, you get bird rights, which means you can pay them, which is why the Warriors can pay these guys so much money, and they're like a payroll is like double what the Celtics was, which is
Yes.
whatever. Good on them. They're paying their guys. You should do that as an owner. That means you're a good owner. But oh man, I'm sorry if you want me to give you salary cap stuff because I can't do it. I'm like, listen, sign this guy. I know you can't like just trade for anybody you want, but
Yes.
you have to match everything. But I don't know
Yes.
anything about hard cap and all. Oh, gee,
I would love Bruce Brown or Gary Payton. I think both would be good fits. Bruce Brown obviously is the local kid angle, like you said, but
And he played well in the playoffs.
he did.
He
was
made
really good.
threes. You get that guy in the gym with Grant, man, and lethal shooter, who, by the way, is saying he's been reached out to by NBA teams. And
I hope it's the Celtics.
I hope the Celtics are one of them.
I agree.
Man. If you
Especially
get that guy some
because
help shooting, that'd be great.
Especially because if lethal shooter, this is pointed out by It's Gear again. Shout out PJ. If another team hires him, that means Grant can't work with him anymore, which is not fun.
Ooh, that's
yeah. You didn't think about that.
But like, let's also call a spade a spade. Like, if you're Grant, like, I mean, the man showed you the workouts. Your brain shouldn't melt.
Yeah. You should be able to figure it out on your own at that point.
John Wall just said, "Hey, give me another $50 million." By the way,
wait, what? What do you mean? He tweeted?
John Wall has opted
sides are
into his
expected.
player option.
Oh, of course. I mean, he would be
What a
foolish not
loser.
to.
No, he's
What do
what
you
a
mean?
loser.
Why?
I mean, listen, I'm not here to tell you don't get paid, but I'm like, I mean, don't you want to play
Well, yes, but he wants
and
to start. So if
contribute?
you want to call him a loser for not being willing to come off the bench, I'll buy that. But at the same time, I don't think the Rockets want to play him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't think they want to give him minutes. So it's not really
Yeah, but like
his.
it's just like a loser. Like it's loser on both sides, by the way.
Yeah, no,
You're
that's
paying the guy
shitty.
to play him.
It's
It's
like
not
the
going to
Horford
hurt
thing
you.
from 2 years ago.
Yeah, and look what playing Horford did for you.
Well, yes, but that's also what the Thunder wanted to avoid. Right? They did not want to win, which is another issue. Anyways, I want to throw a couple draft names. I have two. I have two draft names. We'll
All
keep it
right.
simple, then we can get out of here. Actually, Celtics are picking 53rd overall, round 2, pick 23. And I know that seems
Coveted
useless,
pick.
right? Because here's gonna be nothing. I will redirect you to the point of people have found playable guys in the second round in years past. Look at Herb Jones. He was an early second round pick, but he was still an effective one. Io
It's not
DeSunmu,
impossible.
playable second round pick. I think there are avenues to find, excuse me, playable second round picks. Um, and I think the Celtics need to do that. You want? I have two guys here. One is a shooter slash off ball guy, and one is pure defense. Who do you want to hear about first?
Give me a defense guy because if I'm the Celtics, that's who I'm drafting.
All right. I'll introduce you to Jabari Walker, University of Colorado. 19 years old, 6'9", 7-foot wingspan. Right, big
Is
dude.
he a big or is he a wing?
He's a forward. He's a
Okay.
forward. Right. His strengths, physical tools. Obviously, I mean, I just told you his wingspan and his height. He's a strong dude, 215 pounds, phenomenal athlete. Great defender. I mean, as you could tell, he's going to be an immediate impact guy at the NBA level. I'm not going to tell you he's the next Herb Jones, but if there is a sneaky pick to be that immediately able to have a huge impact on a defense at the NBA level, I think it's Jabari Walker. I think he has all the tools. He hustles well. He knows where to be, and he's able to bully guys down low. The one gripe is that he's not able to stay super quick on the perimeter, which is something he can work on and could hurt him in the Celtics defense, but if at this point, like that's a minor thing to worry about with the 53rd pick. He's got the tools to be a great defender in the NBA. He's great at, and get ready for this. He can drive well aggressively. He can cut off the ball and he can rebound. If you're talking Celtics, those are three things you probably need off the bench. So I like that for him as well. And he's got good potential as a shooter. He shot 40% as a freshman on very limited volume, but that cut down to, I think, like what he's shooting his sophomore. I think he shot like 35%, something like that. And he's a sub 80% free throw shooter. So I think that's where you have to make the connection. Like maybe it's not going to stick at the NBA level. So he's not an amazing shooter. He's not a scorer. The shooting upside isn't there, and he's not a playmaker. So the offensive game is a little like raw still. But for the Celtics on offense, all he would really be doing, is cutting off the ball and shooting, and he's like pretty decent at those two things. So the defense is why you would take this guy. And at the 53rd pick, if he's still available, which he probably will be, I think he's like 60 something on ESPN's big board, but some places have him going like mid 40s,
His name,
etc. Jabari Walker.
Okay.
Jabari Walker.
You've
There's a
sold
guy
me
for
on
you.
him, but I mean, I think you sold me on guys last year too.
I sold you on Austin Reeves last year is who I sold you on, and I was absolutely correct on Austin Reeves last year.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're drafting this late in the draft, I think what you really need to draft is an athlete. It sounds like he's an athlete.
He's absolutely an athlete.
You need somebody that can defend. I mean, think of guys that have been successful out of the second round. Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler in the second round, or was he late first? I think he was in the second.
Late first. I think he was like 30. I think he was 30th.
Okay. Herb Jones, right? Like and he's not even super successful, but guys that are just athletic and they can defend are going to get themselves minutes, and that's how you become a better player. Now, who's the scorer?
His name is Christian Braun. He played at Kansas. Next to
Ochai, he's the white guy.
Agbaji.
I know who that
He
is. He's a real prick. I don't want him on this team.
He's a good off the ball scorer. He moves really well off the ball. He's a sneaky athlete. Obviously, he hustles on defense. He's not the best defender, but he's better than Duncan Robinson, I would argue, if we're going to use that as our barometer. The comparison I made was a potential Duncan Robinson upside with the shooting, but a better athlete. So kind of like combine Max Strus's athleticism and stuff off the ball with Duncan Robinson's height because he is 6'7". I think Christian Braun has the ability to be that. It's obviously not there right away, but he's solid on ball defender. He's obviously a good shooter if you know who he is. He shot 38% at Kansas, averaged
Well,
15
I mean,
points.
I know
Uh,
a fair amount about colleges. You tell me guys on the big teams, I might know who they are. And plus, they played PC in
yeah.
the Elite Eight, Sweet
Yeah, something
16,
like that.
Elite
But
Eight.
I really like Christian Braun as one of the guys, and then I'm really intrigued with Jabari Walker as well, and I'm glad I sold you on him. Keep an eye. He's projected to go 40s right now, so he'd have to fall a little bit. But I really like him in the second round for the Celtics if he does get that far. And
Brad
outside of
Stevens
that,
talked to the press today, and he seemed
excuse me,
like the team's not really going to bend on that defense first thing, which is
good.
good because I think that
Jabari
made them
Walker.
real likable. No,
There you
that's what
go.
I'm saying. It fits right in. Brad said that they've got the okay to spend or do what they need to do. I mean, this is a good day for us to do a podcast. I mean, we've got an hour, and we haven't even talked about Brad talking today.
There you go. We might have to save that for next time because we could probably wrap up soon. But
Oh no, come on. Just quick. I mean, we got to talk about it.
all
Jack.
right.
We
You hit me with
today.
it. You lead it. I also apologize for not muting my mic. I missed the mute button and just coughed right in your ears. So I'm sorry.
I didn't even hear it. He talked today. Hold on.
Okay. Lead the conversation then.
Well, it was hours ago. I got to find the tweets now. Give me a break.
All right. But yeah, Jabari Walker's my guy. I really think he'd be ideal for the Celtics 53, and then Christian Braun. I also like. I don't know if either of them will slip enough for the Celtics to take him, but they're second round guys, so I just went with it. So I'm hoping I sold you on Jabari enough for you to root for him on draft night.
I will. I'll be in my sleep, but I'll tell you what. I'll be rooting for him in my dreams.
Root for him, please do. I appreciate that.
Yep. So Brad Stevens talked about using the big trade exception. He said we've got the okay to do whatever we need to do, which again is great. I'm glad the owner's
Love
willing to pay
that.
money. That's kind
Love
of what you're
that.
supposed to do. Stevens said, I think we need a little bit more playmaking. I think that's real. That's what he said. What do you think of that?
I'm glad that they're willing to spend finally. I think, like you said, it's probably a little bit overdue. I don't necessarily know if it means anything in the grand scheme of things. Like the TPE, I still am like 50-50 on whether or not they'll use it. They just have that 6 point something MLE. If this is hinting at a big deal that they're willing to pay a guy, I really hope it's not Bradley Beal because that would frustrate me. That he is here. If anything, I'm sold on. I'm not even that sold on Donovan Mitchell. I mean, he'd be a better fit than Beal, but he's not a good defender, so I don't know if that'd be a great idea for the Celtics. And definitely not Rudy Gobert. I know we're talking defense, but please, no, I don't want Rudy Gobert.
No.
And that's not to say I don't think Gobert's a good player and could help a team be a quality team because I do, but I
He
just
doesn't
don't think
help
he
his
fits the
team.
Celtics. No, not at all.
Stevens on the offseason needs a little bit more scoring, consistent scoring off the bench, and I think we have some short-term needs there. But I believe in a couple of the guys that didn't get to play as much that they will improve. So again, bench scoring, another thing you might be able to
So
find.
is that hinting
in a
at Neesmith? Do you
TPE.
think?
Could be
he's hinting at
Neesmith.
or
Could be
Hauser?
Neesmith. Hauser's another guy. You want to talk about Duncan Robinson? I feel like he's got Duncan Robinson potential. That guy can shoot, man. Every time he shoots, I think it's going in. He can't really move, right? He's
Yeah, that's the only issue.
But you can. Oh, I don't know if you can learn that. But listen, he can shoot, and that'll get you on the floor. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play rotation minutes in some games in the regular season.
Yeah,
That could be something that they improve on.
You would hope he makes that.
Brad said Tatum, Smart, and Rob, none of them are going to be, needing any kind of medical surgery. Just
Good.
rest. Just
Very
rest.
happy. Love that.
Which is
Needed
really
to hear that.
great, especially Rob. He said he really felt Rob played well in the finals and he looked healthy out there, despite having knee issues throughout the last the two prior rounds. So that's another great thing. And Jack, we've had a little extra free time here without any games on, any pre-games, halftimes, pods to do after every single game. Have you got the chance to watch Hustle? As someone that does not watch movies,
I have not, and I know
you
I
should.
need to, and I
You should watch
absolutely
it.
will.
It's actually really
absolutely will. I'm going to. I just have not had the time nor the energy. When I haven't been writing about basketball for my actual job, I've been doing anything other than paying attention to basketball, if that makes sense. Like I'm just watching YouTube.
It's
I'm
good.
going out. I played golf once. I shot a 49 on 9 holes, which is generally bad, but for me, that's pretty good for my first outing.
Never played golf.
Very fun. You should try it. I highly
You
recommend
should come play basketball this week.
I cannot this week, but I can
Of
probably the
course.
next week because Zoe's going to
We'll
be here this
see.
weekend. But then I'm taking her to the airport because she's going to Ireland. So she
Again, not bringing
she's
you.
no, she's going for a dig, an archaeological dig, which she's done multiple times in the past, which is very dope, very cool. But yeah, she's going for that for a month. So I'm bringing her to the airport to Logan. But yeah, but I'm down next weekend. I should be around.
4th of
I
July
can come
weekend.
by.
I'm not sure. I will keep you posted if they're going to play or not.
If not, the weekend after that. I'll come one of these weeks. I'm absolutely terrible. I have no stamina. I'm terribly out of shape. But
Got to start pounding the pavement, brother.
I know. I've gone twice in the past few days, so I've been hitting the courts a little bit, and we've been running. We've been getting.
Let us know what you guys have been doing to keep busy over the last 5 days. I mean, it's great.
Please do.
I can come home from work. I don't have to be super strict with how fast I do everything that day to make sure I can get exercise in, take my nap, get up in time for pregame, watch the Celtics, and go back to bed. It's so I can watch TV. I watched Hustle. I've never seen Stranger Things. Watched the first 3 episodes of season 1. I think it's fantastic.
Wow. Even I've seen Stranger Things. I haven't seen the newest, but
I've never seen it. I'm enjoying
Very good.
it. I have something to look forward to. I'm not stressed if a team's going to win or lose. I'm not on Twitter scouring from the time I wake up for injury
do
reports.
you like crime shows? Like, have you ever seen Criminal Minds?
I've never seen Criminal Minds. I like Dexter. I don't know if
You
you've
should
seen
watch
Dexter.
The Blacklist as your next summer show.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
gonna put that
going to
on
have
your
all
radar.
kinds of time.
I'm putting that on your radar. That is one of my top 3 shows of all time. That Criminal Minds, and I love Malcolm in the Middle. I'm a sucker.
Tell you
for
what,
that
you
show.
got to watch, Jack. You got to watch these bad boys right here.
I know.
These 3 great movies. The
I've seen
original
one of the
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
movies.
I
Which ones
haven't
you
seen
see?
the original. I saw the one. Jesus, this is bad.
Oh,
The
boy.
one where they went to the school dance.
That's a good movie.
What was
That's
it?
a good movie.
Homecoming? Was that one Homecoming?
That's a good movie.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I like
And I've
that one.
seen the one, and I barely remember the plot.
Kendrick Nunn opting in to the Lakers.
Shocker. The one Marvel movie I have seen that I can like vividly remember and that I enjoyed, I saw Thor Ragnarok.
That's a great movie.
Phenomenal.
By the way, the guy that reported this is the guy that dates Malika Andrews. Very average looking individual. I think this is him.
Leave him alone. Leave him alone.
Dude, I'm telling you, that is when you guys told me that, I could not believe that. Is this him? Or am I oh yeah, no,
that is him. That is him. You love to see it. Love it. Love to see it.
There you go.
Anyways.
Title of the episode.
Anyways, I think that about covers it for today.
It's enough.
Hopefully there's some more
babbling.
stuff. You know what we can do?
If you're still listening,
time,
I hope you enjoyed that.
Please do. Do you know what we can do next time we talk? We can talk about who the Celtics picked at 53.
Yes.
Let's go.
Well, there you go. I hope they don't pick AJ Reeves, who they invited for a workout. PC.
Yes.
Horrible. Guy was horrible in the tournament. Not good. Listen, look at this. I'm giving you college analysis. This is not something you get out of me. And I think Jabari Smith's fantastic, and I think he should go number 1.
Jabari Walker, do you mean? Or are you talking about first pick guy now?
The actual guy. The guy in the draft.
Yes. Is he your top
From
guy?
Auburn. Yes. Yeah. I'm not convinced Chet's any good in the league.
I'm a big Chet guy. I love Chet.
I don't think he's not skilled. Just look at him.
I know. I think he's going to be very good. Anyways, we can talk about that more next time when the draft is done. Yeah. Maybe the Celtics make a wild trade. Maybe they'll trade into the top 3, Sam. Maybe they'll do something. Maybe they'll do something crazy. No, I'm happy to be back at it. Sorry for the delay on the podcast. You guys will be listening to this on Wednesday is when it's going to release, the day before the draft. So you'll get that insight on Jabari Walker and Christian Braun that I wanted to give you. Jabari Walker's the guy. I'm putting that out there now. If the Celtics get him, and whoever gets him, we're gonna come back to this show in June. And if I'm right about Jabari Walker, I'm gonna expect praise. I'll need that validation.
My Knicks are bad praise, my Lakers are bad praise, and my Warriors are good praise.
You deserve it. 100%. And I admitted halfway through
the
season,
Celtics are good praise, by the way.
Of course. You got those right. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. We can do our normal off-season predictions things towards the end of the off-season like we always do, and I'll mark them down this time for the next year. But anyways,
I have a feeling we're going to be busy this summer, and we're going to have to get some guests on here because we
absolutely.
like to do guests. It's just harder to do them when there's actual games to talk about. But when it's just us talking and speculating, it's great to have guests. So
It's extra hard in the playoffs too when stuff is so rapid
people are
and going.
busy.
And in the regular season, when there's not going to be like breaking news and important games played every day, like you can get it easy. But we'll have more guests for you the offseason.
And if you want somebody, let us know who you want to see.
Absolutely, you can text, tweet at us, DM us. DMs are open on the From the Rafters podcast, Instagram. We technically have an email, from the Rafters17@gmail.com. I haven't used. It's just the email we use for the podcast account.
I didn't.
So if you want to email that, I'll take a look. But yeah, from the Rafters17@gmail, I believe is what it is. But anyways,
you get an hour and 10 today listening to us.
Who would have thought?
We haven't talked in a while. We usually put out probably more than this in a week in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And we should do some live stream episodes this summer too, like where we hop on the guy Boston Sports YouTube and stuff and like post.
I would do them for free agency. I just don't know what the days are because I don't know if I have to work.
I don't know either. We can figure out the timing. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. From Rafters Pod on Twitter. Check that out. And I'll pass it over to Sam.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube watching, you're on Guy Boston or Bannertown. I think that's what it still is. If you are, make sure you subscribe. Bannertown, we're getting up there. We're close to 100.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Well, we might have to change it to the From the Rafters podcast YouTube because it's basically all we post on there anyway. So if there's a name change,
you're on there. You leave a like, you subscribe, right? Leave a comment. I'm always on there. I go on and boost the ratings a little bit, right?
Love it.
If you're on the streaming services, make sure you follow us just in case you want it at 6 a.m. on the day of. That's when they usually drop. And if you want them on Twitter, you can follow at From Rafters Pod. Jack's been excellent with tweeting them out ever since we did that, and is no longer needing to be reminded every time we do a pod. Which for a while was hurtful. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know.
But if you want Jack's articles, dude's working hard. He's everywhere. I think you should follow him at Jack's One NBA. And if you want me to, I don't know, I'm not really complaining right now. There's not a lot. If you want me to see me be mean to Zion every once in a while, you can follow me at Sam LaFrance NBA. Who knows? Maybe you'll see me start writing soon. Who knows? We did a little bit in the finals, right? A little warming up, rehabbing, right? Like tears his ACL, starts warming up a bit. At Sam LaFrance NBA. That's our show for today.
Tic-tac-toe.